I think we're live, and I hope you're with me. It's Jacqui Lewis, clinical nutritionist for BN Multi. I think we've probably heard this all once or twice this week so far. We did attempt the live last night, but we've had some technical issues. So as promised, here I am again. So thank you if you're joining us. This will be shared in the group and on the pages as well. So I hope you find it somewhere. If not, there'll be a recording, so don't worry. So welcome. This week we're talking carbs. I did start everything last night. I'll run through it all again, I think, because a lot of you might have missed it. It was a bit broken. So this week and every other week on Tuesday nights, normally at 7 p.m. Brisbane time, we meet on the page and we answer your questions with regard to bariatric surgery, nutrition, exercise, general health, and quirky things our body does after surgery sometimes. And we also talk about a different topic, and we also run a challenge. So every month there's a different challenge. This month's challenge was giving up alcohol or reducing alcohol intake at the very least. So I'd love to get your thoughts on how that's gone. We did have a few people joining us last week who were pretty much not challenged by giving up alcohol anyway. So if you have given it a crack this month and it's not the easiest thing for you, we'd love to hear from you. Also, I will run through the poll results from last week, which took us to understand kind of where I need to answer your questions with regards to carbs. So each week we'll also do a poll which is related to the next subject of the live. So we'll ask some questions about what you know about different topics and how you feel about them, and that will help us to know where there are gaps in your knowledge, and we can fill them for you. So last week we said, how much do you know about carbs and how much should you be having? 85 people said they know which foods are high or low in carbs but don't know how much they should be having of each. 55 people said they know there are good and bad carbs but they're not sure which ones are which is fine. We'll answer that tonight. 54 people said they have a fair idea but not 100% confident I have a good balance in my meal. 12 people said they're clueless. I don't even know what a carbohydrate is. So I hope you're listening. And 6 said they know a fair bit and they check out the food labels. 5 people said they're a carb legend and I know everything about carbs. So that's pretty cool. We could collaborate perhaps. So that helps me to answer your questions in a way that's going to be helpful. So please keep participating in the polls in the group. Next week is sleep, I believe. So I'm going to run through the questions because it was abysmal last night, to be honest. Natalie was asking about she was saying her biggest problem pre-surgery was carbs. I had a bypass in November and I'm still struggling to cut them down. I'm not eating enough overall, especially with protein, as I can't digest meat. I did say last night, when you're avoiding a whole food group because you're not digesting it well, it's time to look at the tools. So looking at the reasons why things aren't working and fixing those up and supporting those processes will often be the thing that changes the way your diet operates in total. So instead of saying I don't eat meat, and I know you didn't eat meat a lot beforehand, I'm just making an example so that everybody can relate. And I think we all go, oh, that didn't sit very well, I won't eat that. We don't look at why that didn't sit very well. Was it the cut of meat you had? Was it too heavy? Were you was it marinated in something? I'm just giving examples. It's looking at not meat as a blanket that you didn't sit well or can't digest it. It's what was it? Was it a nice high quality grass-fed cut of meat, or was it something that a lot of different bodies would have trouble digesting? So it's looking at the quality of your food to begin with, and then looking at your digestive system and why it might not be dealing with protein very well. And given that it's such a key after surgery, it's really important. So yes, of course, when you're not eating much protein, you will have to eat something, and that leaves carbohydrates. But often too, you'll be really hungry when you're eating the carbs. So the protein is the buffer for your hunger as well. And basically, it's the foundation of keeping a low glycemic index, higher protein diet will be the best thing for your fat loss as well. So when you're looking at cutting them down, I'm assuming they are, there are two types of carbs. There's a complex carbohydrate, which comes from fruit and vegetables, grains, so whole grains, things that have seeds in them. Anything that's a simple carbohydrate is something that you want to be steering clear of, and they are things like pastry and refined flours like white flour, white bread, pasta, white rice, that sort of thing. So it's looking in the supermarket and basically choosing the brown version of all the white things. So the complex carbohydrates, the reason they are more healthy is because they bring in fiber overall, and they bring in plant nutrients. So of course we all know fruit and veggies are very healthy, but they all have their own set of different what we call plant nutrients, or even like polyphenols and that sort of thing, which also have huge benefit for our health, like toning the vascular system and keeping all our blood vessels, running smoothly, and making sure they're nice and strong and elastic. Those are the sorts of things like bioflavonoids do, and you can't find them anywhere else than in fruit and vegetables. So eliminating those refined carbs, and the reason for that is, the reason we go to that is that firstly, they don't have much nutritional value. All the good stuff is removed when you're refining these carbohydrates. So they take away the outer husk of the grain and leave it as just the raw middle of the grain, which is firstly very starchy, and it's a very quick hit of energy. So if you don't burn those carbs off pretty much immediately, they'll start to store, they're easier to store as fat. They also will spike your blood glucose levels really, really quickly, and that's the one thing, if anything, if you're looking at maintaining weight or losing weight, that you want to avoid. So that roller coaster of blood glucose levels throughout the day is not helpful for fat loss at all. And that's why the complex carbs, fruit, vegetables, whole grains, that sort of thing, will slowly, they give you a slow release of energy. They keep you fuller for longer, and they've got so many more health benefits as well. They basically act like a broom that kind of washes through the body and cleans the debris. Also, they are the things that feed those healthy gut microbes that I go on and on and on about. So that's a real thing, is when you remove those refined carbs, which actually they help candida to grow, they help all sorts of kind of unhelpful bacteria to proliferate. When you start changing the diet over to those fruits and vegetables and healthy grains, you'll find that your microbes change and your vitality will also improve. So the switch is, Natalie, to cut a long story short, is looking at your gut health and how much maybe stomach acid and enzymatic activity there is in there that would help you to break down protein. And when doing that, you would find that you could use more protein in the diet, and that would be a way of cutting down the carbs. You can maybe talk to a health professional about some supplementation if you need it for helping to break down those proteins. And basically, some of the surgeries, the bypass in particular, will change the way your enzymes are released, and that can lead to that protein malabsorption and difficulty breaking them down in your tummy. So that's all I can say, I think, there, and we'll just continue kind of elaborating on that as we come past. Lynn had a question. Oh, this is a good one. I'm planning on walking the Cape to Cape in WA in April. It's 130 kilometres in 7 days. That's an undertaking. I'm struggling to find the right mix of fluids and solids, and with allowing the 30 minutes I need between each, I've made myself feel sick, but I've been mixing them up. I use a camel pack for water, but I'm wondering if I need electrolytes or protein blends. I thought I might just make all my food into fluids so I don't have the solid versus liquid problem. Not a bad workaround. Also, I struggle to manage the higher calories, which is, I did a podcast recently, Lynn, on the Australian Weight Loss Surgery podcast website. You'll find it. It's a podcast I did with dietitian Nick Ray, and he deals with what he terms bariathletes. So someone like yourself who's had bariatric surgery and is doing either high intensity exercise or those long duration of events. And we discussed at length the implications of these high demands of energy on a bariatric patient. And I would say that's probably your best bet of where you'll find basically the key message for what you're looking for here. And any endurance athlete, Ironmen and triathletes and that sort of thing, they all struggle with the same issue. It's high energy demand and high levels of activity, and trying to get in the right foods that sit well. So they often have quite upset tummies, basically, because they're running and eating and trying to put in the glucose and, you know, fuel the exercise, but also it wreaks havoc on your gut environment too. So I think looking at, yes, I would say you would need some electrolytes depending on how much you're losing. I would say I can only give very general advice, but looking at what you're about to do, I think it would be great if you had someone who was supporting you one-on-one, because they'll be able to have a look at, you know, what a day looks like for you and where you can fit all of that in. Essentially, when you're on the go and you're exercising for that long, you could add some protein and some carbs to your water if you're doing that, or like coconut water with berries and, you know, maybe the collagen powder and that sort of stuff. So it's almost like an on-the-go smoothie, but it doesn't have the heavy, you know, dairy kind of protein background to it. The coconut water is a really good electrolyte balancer, and it has a little bit of fructose in it, some carbs. So those sorts of tricks are good. Sometimes when you are using this much energy and you have the limited capacity, you do get into quick hit kind of glucose jelly beans and that sort of stuff if you can tolerate those. So it's all a bit of a trial and error, and it is something that when you're in the moment you'll find what works and doesn't work for you. But you're on the right track with what you're suggesting. I would just maybe check in with somebody to help them to find the tricks to keeping that balance of your calories in, calories out. But wow, that's pretty inspiring. 130 Ks over 7 days is a lot of walking. I hope you got good shoes. Thank you for that. Michelle is asking about, I'm 6 months post sleeve and I'm finding I can eat a lot more, approximately 1 full cup. I know I shouldn't compare myself to others, that's good, but I feel like I can eat so much more. Also, how do you feel about snacking in between meals? 2 really good questions, because a lot of people struggle with the answers to this. So I always say, don't eat what you can eat what you should eat. So there's a prescriptive kind of method to setting up your portions after weight loss surgery, and you'll find the easiest and most accurate way of knowing what you're actually, you know, how much you're eating is to use the portion plates and bowls that are for bariatric patients, and that way you know that every meal you have is correct. And yes, you might be able to fit more in, but we shouldn't be eating until we're absolutely full. So what we need to do is stick to the rules, not stick to what we can fit in. And it is easy to do that when you're not measuring out your food. On the website, we've got a range of different ways of managing portions. You can buy the plate and the bowl. We also have a transportable mat now, which is really handy. It's just like a silicone mat with the portions on it. So you can take that with you wherever you go and just put it on your plate, and you know that you've got it right every time. And the other thing we have is brilliant is and I use these every time, the measuring jug, it's like a plastic stand with a handle on it. It's like and it has a mixing bowl on there. So it's just put your whole meal in there, and you know you've got 100 grams or 200 grams or whatever it is. So really we do need to get to that accurate portioning so that we don't start to increase our meals and our intake to a level where we're going to start to regain. So that's a good question. Also, how do I feel about snacking? I think that's completely fine, because to fit in your needs in 3 meals a day is going to be quite hard if you can only fit half a cup of food in. So I don't mind snacking. I just know that you have to be organised. So snacking on things like a boiled egg or homemade protein balls, or you know, those frittatas, that sort of thing, they're great snacks. When you're not prepared, you'll start snacking on stuff that's convenient, and that's when things fall apart, because the minute you leave the house without protein in your handbag, you're buggered. It's hard to get unless you are organised, and if you are looking at basing your diet predominantly on kind of at least 50% protein, 40 to 50% protein, you will find it hard to stick to if you're not organised. So I don't mind snacking. I don't mind snacking, but grazing is a problem when people are continually snacking and not actually having those 3 structured meals, and then, you know, just having a small bit of food like all throughout the day. You definitely don't want to get into that. Thanks for that. It's a great question. So Janine, is it normal to experience moderate stomach pain after eating bread items? I'm 4 months post-op from sleeve, and I don't usually eat bread or pastry, but every now and then that carb devil sits on my shoulder. I love the carb devil. Normal, well, normal, we don't know what normal is anymore, because normal is pretty individual. So if you're feeling moderate stomach pain after eating bread, I would explore how you're tolerating it. So after the surgery, your enzymatic activity changes and your ability to break down certain things may be affected. So things like we see a lot of lactose intolerance and gluten afterwards. So it's something to be aware of. And then if you're finding that you're getting moderate stomach pain after eating bread items, see if you eliminate them for a period of time, how you feel. If you're really excited about it, you can do an intolerance test. But yeah, simply put, if things aren't sitting, if carbs, refined carbs aren't sitting well with you, it's a blessing, because you're not going to eat them as often, and you'll find other alternatives that do help you to feel well. So I would never say anything's normal or not normal, because we're all so different. But if you're getting pain after eating something, there's generally some kind of disturbance, like the body's reacting in some way that's unpleasant. And it could be that it's you're putting in too much at a time, or it could be that it's just not breaking down, and there's not able to digest as well as you could. So it's something to explore. Here's a question from Belinda. Has anyone had a DEXA scan and been told not to lose any more weight? How did you handle this? Were you at your goal weight? That's a question for the group. DEXA scan is something that's good to touch on, because it's a good measurement of body fat composition, but it's also important to make sure that you're checking your bone density, because calcium absorption is so heavily affected after surgery. It's something to keep an eye on. And a lot of people aren't eating much dairy, so it's got to be, I think the ASMBS, the American Society of Metabolic Surgeons, they did the research on what your needs are after surgery, and it's anywhere between 1,300 milligrams and 2,500 supplemental calcium every day. So we do hear a lot of patients saying, oh yeah, but I eat dairy, and it's like the amount of dairy you would eat would probably give you maybe a few hundred milligrams at the most, but it's something to watch, because absorption is before surgery, absorption of calcium is about 40%, and after surgery it can be as low as 9%. So you have to, even the 1,300 that you're supplementing, you'll take 9% of that. It's not a lot. So I don't know. I think we'll leave that one. It's in the group, and people will be answering about this feeling around being told not to lose any more weight. It can be that you're losing muscle tissue as well, so they'll let you know your composition, and that's what they're basing this weight loss on, perhaps. Thank you. So Thea asks, I see people talking about taking collagen supplements. Is this for cosmetic or physical reasons? I'm struggling with a lot of pain at the moment, and someone has suggested collagen, but I don't know what good it would do. So collagen is the basis of what we call connective tissues. It helps your bones, which is good. And it also helps your muscles and your tendons and your skin and your hair and your nails. So it works on all of those kind of what we call connective tissues. So yes, if you've, I wouldn't say it would be the solution to your arthritis, but certainly it's a support mechanism. And collagen is the basis of, you know, cartilage and muscles and tendons. So not the more of it you've got, the better. But if it's in good supply, there'll be less degradation. So what you might be doing with collagen supplements is creating this kind of preventative mechanism. Collagen and vitamin C make up connective tissues, and they're, you know, brilliant for hair, skin and nails. As a protein supplement, I wouldn't rely on it for every breakfast, lunch and dinner, because it's missing one amino acid. So you do need to see that you're getting majority of your protein from food where possible. I see a lot of people are relying on the collagen supplements as their 60 or 80 grams of protein a day. I don't recommend that at all. So you'd be better off if we're doing that and needing to supplement anyway, which we really need to be focusing on food. You can't get nearly as much out of, you know, a protein shake as you can from real life food. Yeah, I'd use the collagen once a day just as a kind of nice to have and a support mechanism, not something that's going to be the basis of your diet. Renee is asking, hi, I'm 4 weeks post-sleeve today and I'm on a soft diet. My question is it normal to feel like you have indigestion after everything you drink or eat, no matter how small the amount is? If so, does it eventually get better? I had a hernia repair at the same time as the sleeve, and I'm at the point where I'm not wanting to eat or drink. This is a time to check with your team, because this is a time where you can't be thinking, I don't want to eat anything. It's a really important time to be healing, and your body needs the nutrition to do that. Again, normal is anybody's guess. Feeling like you've had indigestion, it could be that, you know, you've still got some inflammation in there from the surgery, guessing, if you've had hernia and the sleeve. But certainly if things are uncomfortable every time you put something in, I would certainly be talking to your team as, just to make sure, like, you're better off to be overcautious than regretful. So at this early stage, it's really nice to, and it's good for you to know exactly what's going on, because then you can relax when you know that it's not anything and you know how to deal with it. So I really encourage people to not sit at home going, I wonder if this is normal. I've never had a sleeve before. I wonder if this is normal. Reach out and make sure that you are getting the support that you deserve, because you do. And also, you pay a lot of money for your surgery. You want to make sure you're getting good service, I think. Does someone else is asking, MPE, that's the first name. Does anyone else get diarrhea after taking protein powder? Again, I can't speak for everybody else. Some people do. It depends on the protein powder. Might be that it's dairy based. That would be my guess, is again the dairy component coming into it. Without knowing what protein powder is, I can't really answer that one, sorry. But it'll be floating in the group, so if anyone's got some feedback on that one. Here is Karen is asking about the tasteless protein. I'm using it as one of my major protein sources. I've answered this question, and Is this a complete protein? No. Does it give me all that I need? No. It's great. It's a great solution, and it's excellent in those early stages where you're on liquid and puree, because gosh, it's hard to get protein in when that's going on. So yes, it definitely has its place, but food is the king here, and it's really important that you learn how to eat well. And that's the other thing, is the supplements are not teaching you good habits, they're teaching you how to supplement. So at the end of the day, it's really important that you are, cooking and sourcing fresh food and looking at what's on offer and how to make it interesting and nutritious, because you get half a cup of a go every time or a cup, every time you sit down to a meal. It has to count. It has to be as full of protein as you possibly can. Rant over. So normally in the live, I'm lucky enough to have technology on my side where I can share my screen, and tonight's not one of those nights. But in the group, we're going to post an image of our brand new and amazing, and actually I've got one here. My camera's even moved. There we go. It's terrible. This is a new book we did. It's brilliant, and you're going to love it. And it's 5 things to stop, to start, and to think to prevent weight regain after weight loss surgery. And inside, how many pages is it? It's about 36 pages of all the incredible tips we've put together to the camera's up high, of all the tips we've put together to help you succeed. And this is how it looks on the inside. There's room for notes. It's like, I had a bit to do with it, and our graphics team, and I think it's pretty good. So there'll be a kit that is available, and it also has our brand new, and we've been talking about this one for a while too, the new challenge calendar, which is here, sit it on your desk, and every month there's a challenge, and every month there's things for you to remember to do. So this sits in front of you, and on the back is all the information you need on each challenge we're doing for the month in the group. And then it just keeps things top of mind. And at the end of the day, you need those reminders to make sure that you're remembering, what should I be doing here? I keep things in my vision. If I'm concentrating on doing something, I leave it on the bench or I stick it on the fridge. And I need the visual. I'm that kind of person. I need the visual reminder. So at the moment we have, 4 or 5 things stuck in our fridge that we're doing, and all our supplements sit on the end of the bench, and it looks messy, but, if I put them in the cupboard, what do you think happens to them? They don't get taken. So that's also, that's the questions. I'll talk about the carbs. Ideally, I kind of alluded to it at the start, and the newsletter that went out today was all on the carbs, and there's a whole bunch of our more carby content on there. So there's about 3 or 4 articles you can read on carbohydrates. I would never, in a forum like this, I will never give you an amount of carbohydrates to eat, because the amount of carbs you need depends on who you are and what you do. There's a lot of talk about no carbs, low carbs, keto, fasting. It must be very confusing. I've done 4 years of study on this one, and I'm still confused sometimes. So I find the best way of looking at it as far as carbohydrates go is keep them healthy, keep them fibrous, keep them colourful, and see if you can find alternatives to, having a sandwich with white bread and not much protein in it, to having a salad with lots of roasted vegetables and chunks of chicken and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a change in a lot of people's ways of eating, because carbohydrates, back in the 80s when they decided that, animal fats will kill you and they're the problem with your cholesterol, so we need to cut out fat. So then they went around reducing all the fat in everything. And guess what we got out of that? High cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, because this is what we're living now, is the repercussions of this low-fat, refined carbohydrate diet. So I can tell you it hasn't worked out well for society, and it's a global issue where even in Asian countries, where like Japan, where they have lots of sushi and white rice, their public health initiatives are, if you're cooking rice, we know we can't stop you eating white rice, but put 1 cup of brown rice in there for every 2 cups of rice. And that's what they're doing in Japan, because they have such huge levels of obesity due to the white rice they're eating. So refined carbs are not awesome. The other thing you'll see in the Indian diet is lots of vegetarianism, and even though it's, you know, healthy, they're still really high carb diets, and they still have huge problems with obesity over there because there's not enough protein, and there's lots of rice and breads and vegetables, which the veggies will be a buffer, but everything else is pretty much carbohydrate based. So in other countries, Asian countries, the BMI to qualify for obesity is lower than ours, because they are what they almost call, I don't know if you've heard it, it's called, like, they refer to it as skinny fat, where they're trim, but their biochemistry and their health on the inside is that of an overweight person. So they're doing the bariatric surgeries on patients that have a lower BMI, but they are classified as obese because of their race as well. So we're all very different. So looking at, reducing that, well, basically you eat the carbohydrate, it's converted to glucose, it's either used for energy soon after, or it gets stored in the liver and the muscles as a product called glycogen. And glycogen is like a really quick hit energy as well. It's ready to be used. So it goes to the muscles and the liver, and it sits there, and it's ready for maybe tomorrow's exercise, or maybe even the day after. You've got about 72 hours to burn off your carbs, just so you know. If you don't use those carbohydrates and you continue to put more in, you will start to, through another process, you'll start to store those carbs as fat. They'll be converted to body fat. The problem with that is, the problem with refined carbohydrates and starchy carbs is that they immediately spark off your glucose, your insulin, to ameliorate, and insulin's job is to take glucose into the cell. So if there's lots of glucose, you need lots of insulin, and it's trying to get into your cells. So this is where the cycle of these high carbohydrate diets and not enough insulin to manage how many carbs are coming in becomes insulin resistant. And you've probably heard of that. That's type 2 diabetes on the cusp of. So this is why we're looking at reducing those starchy carbs and making sure you're eating those, slow burning carbohydrates as well. We look at, I'll put a little thing in the group later too on the glycemic load. So we're looking at a low glycemic load diet rather than a low carbohydrate diet, or keto. Keto is a therapeutic diet. It works. It was made for, wasn't made for, but it was uncovered that it was helping epileptic children to have less of the seizures, because the ketones help the brain to function. So yes, a ketogenic diet is also prescriptive, and it will it's a way of losing fat, but it's not a way of living, in my opinion. And it's a recommended kind of periodic way of feeding. They also use it for cancer. So, however, is your brain meant to run on ketones, and is your breath meant to smell like ketones for the rest of your life? I hope not. That's just my humour coming in. So looking at that, you just concentrate on your protein. Oh, the other thing is, make sure when you're eating a meal, as a bariatric patient, we always say make sure you eat your protein first. And the thinking around that is that it basically will fill up your tummy first, and it almost like creates a barrier so the carbs can't go straight through. Carbohydrates are not digested in the stomach, they move straight through to the small intestine. So if you've got your protein kind of in the way of it, that won't happen so quickly. And it doesn't spike your insulin so much either. So the other thing protein first does is tells the pancreas to be quiet. So it's like, here comes a meal, digestion starts, here comes a meal, oh, it's protein, and the pancreas goes, oh, what, no insulin? And they go, no. So overall you'll have a slower peak in your blood glucose levels. So follow the group, follow the newsletter, and there's a whole lot of information on carbs this week. Eat more carbs on the days that you're really active because you need it. On the days that you're recovering, eat more protein. So if you know you're not going to be doing much activity, you would back off the carbs just a little bit that day. And if you are quite active and you need the energy, a little bit of carbohydrate before your exercise and not more than 30 minutes after will help your recovery as well. So last thing I've got to do is talk to you about the winners. I still can't share the screen. So Rachel Hayward is one of our winners this week. Congratulations. Surgery was in March 1920. That's a long time ago. In March last year, and a starting weight of 105 kilograms. Current weight is 65. Wow. More importantly is the change in my health and my body health and age. My prior age was 80 and my current age is 48, which is amazing because I'm just about to turn 47. So that's impressive, and I wish you could see the photos. You will see them in the group. I'd love to interview someone around what happens to tattoos after bariatric surgery and how do they need to draw around them or something differently. So this week's winners, they get one of these kits that are the calendar and the book, and we'd love your feedback on those too. So please send us an email to support@bnmulti.com and we will get your prize out to you. And the next winner is Anastasia Beaverhausen. She says, I hate photos. I always have. I avoid getting them taken as I hated the way I looked. Weight loss catalyst for me was when a friend took a photo of a group of us at a party and posted it on Facebook. I was mortified. I looked like I should have been swimming north for the winter with my pod. But I promised someone in this group that I would eventually post some before and after photos when I felt I looked better. God, that's amazing to be able to go from that to wanting to post your photos on Facebook. It's impressive. So today is the day. I'm not at goal weight yet, but I can look at the photos now and not cry. Oh. Thanks for all being so supportive this last few months. I appreciate it. And there's 4 photos there of Anastasia's progress, and it looks amazing. So good on you for, look at what you gain. It's not just about weight loss, is it? It's all about a new you emerging, which is amazing. And also, Anastasia, if you could please send us an email, support@bnmulti.com, and we'll get your prize out to you. And I think that's about it for this week. Thank you for sticking with us and putting up with me 2 nights in a row. And please post your recipes in the group. Every week we're doing a members recipe on Saturday where we take someone's beautiful food and take a photo of it, and then we the graphics team weave their magic, and we post them on the weekends. So keep the recipes or your food images coming, and then we can share them and you'll get notoriety for that. And I think that's all I need to tell you this week. Keep your questions coming, and yeah, I will. Oh, hang on, I'll just check and see if there's questions here. No, good. Okay, we're good. I think I've covered everything. Next week, technology I reckon, is Mercury in retrograde or something, because I've replaced a laptop, a mobile phone, my Zoom's not working. I'm not sure what's going on this week with the planets, but technology's not my friend. So have a wonderful week. The camera's up there. And I'll see you next Tuesday. Take care.